All right. This is the Wisdom Table coming to you from East Harlem Community Radio. I'm your co host on the Wisdom Table, along with a dynamic crew that grows every time that we have a program. It opens with the core group and then it increases exponentially. However, it does not reflect the views, attitudes, whims, deeds, or any other proclivities of the management of this community center, nor that of the administration of the housing development. However, the program, the Wisdom Table, does reflect the research done by the participants in the program who are live and live in color in studio and by phone interview. And today we thank the Most High for blessing us with an opportunity to interview a young lady whose knowledge is of interest to us all, and that's black women's hair. What we want to talk about is the value of black women's hair, their natural hair, and how to prevent the premature loss of black women of their hair, and also get into business opportunities by way of the company that Cheryl Morrow, our guest online, represents. Cheryl Morrow, thank you for joining us. God bless you and your family.
How are you, Brother Leroy?
Excellent. We have a full table here. We have
Stroud, Varnum.
Esther, Hyatt.
And Stu Reed.
and along with myself, and the floor is open to you in terms of, and we have questions from everyone at the table. The question or the subject matter is, first of all, establish the hair quality of black women. Is it defective so that they have to go to a beautician to get made up? You laughing, or is it? So I'm gonna stop right there. Run it, don't walk it.
Okay, can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. I just need the question reiterated, that's all. Or repeat it.
You can. Okay, I'm making sure my. Okay. The question is the value of black women's hair. Is it naturally valuable, or is it necessary for a black woman, black girl, black little granddaughter to go to a beautician and get it hooked up so that they look like a Dominican or something else?
Okay. Well, let me say, let me start by saying it is probably a matter and it's a Western approach to beauty in dealing with length. I think that even in today's perspective, we are still, no matter if we're in locks, afro, or press, we are still obsessed with its length. And length, I think, is attached to vibrance or youth or being extra beautiful more than, it's almost like a short person is less desirable than, a tall person. We have all these isms. So the beauty standard is based on something that obviously everyone on the planet doesn't fit in. But the hair being valuable, unfortunately, in a collective sense, and I'm sure you guys at the Wisdom Table understand, trying to get us collectively on a standard. Maybe it is anti-Afrocentric to have a standard. Maybe that is the reason why we can't get on the same page with it. Nonetheless, we are approaching even the traditional cosmetology, like you said, Brother Leroy, going to the salon. I mean, if you're going to the salon, you have to fit into a square peg. And they are, natural hair or even the Afro movement never infiltrated the salon. So the natural hair basis or the love of one's naturalness is not found in the traditional institution of cosmetology, found in the barbershop of Black communities or in the salon. So I hope I addressed that question, Brother Leroy.
Okay, so when you look at the hair industry, what we call the hair care industry. The hair care industry, in my estimation, is driven by Black women who have been conditioned mentally to think that their hair is deficient. So therefore they got to get it made up. They got to get it beautified, a beauty parlor. Before they go into the beauty parlor, this is Brother Leroy talking. I ain't no women.
That is DNA. We've been warned. I mean, you have to remember, we are the first people to even symbolically attach zoomorphic form or symbols or flowers or colors to any type of canvas, regardless if it was skin or papyrus or walls or granite or any type of, drawing that can beauty and adoring. The salon process is us trying to tap into that. The problem is that is not the issue. The issue is not our obsession with trying to be beautiful and observe our surroundings and wanting to as we adorn a flower, we want people to adorn us in the same fashion. I think the wheel comes up and gets wobbly is when the power structure, when those people in power do not look like us. And what they say and what they do is the norm. And how do we fit into that square peg?
Okay.
And moving forward, our history goes back tens of thousands. You can't look at, we have eyeliner, and we're always trying to connect and beautify. That is something that Black Afrocentric peoples have done so long. In fact, it's ironic that the standard in which we do judge ourselves is the basis of this conversation has only been doing it maybe 75 to 100 years. And only maybe doing it 150 years in commerce. So that we've got a big jump and a big lead on it. And I think that our questions have to be so critical, analytical at this point, that we don't talk about it in such a macro fashion, because we're going to look pretty. We're a pretty people. We like to do that. But the mentality, the cognitive dissonance that our environment is causing us to do it in, and I think that is why your question was juxtaposed to me that way. Am I correct?
Well, what you touched on, very important. You touched on the fact that, and you make us go to the history books, that ever since we have been recording, we as a people have been recording our history on the walls of the temples in Egypt, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That the Black women have always been a beauty object, not submitting to somebody else's standard, but to their own standard. That's what you conveyed, and that breaks me out of the box of looking at our women here, HERE, but looking at the totality of our history as the Black woman is the most beautiful on the planet. She don't need makeup. All she got to do is smile. That's my pitch out there in the street. But it, so listen, I'm a back up. I'm a back up from dialogue. I'm let the others. Not the others. I'm gonna let the sisters take over. Because I done messed up already. Sisters said, "Shut your mouth, Leroy." So y'all go ahead. This is your show. Please ask questions, whatever questions you want.
Well, one of the points that you made, I didn't catch it, but you said the mere fact that you have to go into the salon, and I didn't hear the rest of it well.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that I was addressing Brother Leroy's point is that the salon in and of itself, the history of cosmetology in and of itself, never commercially, merchantly embraced the Afro movement of 1960s. Black women had to go to a barber shop to get her hair cut in an Afro. So the basis of us going to the salon in today's time, even the natural hair movement of the early 2000s season, is void of a foundation for naturalness. They're just doing trend. They're just answering to a trend. The roots of cosmetology is not entrenched like the black barbershop. Doesn't have a strong basis. We don't talk about black men's haircut and barbershop experience the same way we talk about black women. And we talk about black women going to cosmetology in the same frame that Brother Leroy framed it in. Like we have to get fixed up. Like we're going for probably some other mentality, some other reason. And we could be, because women obviously have other impediments that black men don't. But it's the foundation that she could come, and it's so funny because historically, when I see my father's 40 years without a comb picture archive, one of his pictures in his barbershop is a picture of Angela Davis above his three black barbers in 1965. Well, that would have never happened in a black salon in 1965 because we were too busy preparing black women to look like Dorothy Hyatt and other types of women to look sophisticated and collegiate and, doctorial and presidential and secretarial and things of that nature. So you don't have enough naturalness and Africanness and Afrocentric and texture-centric history in cosmetology. So she has got to do the best she can when she goes to the salon. So she's only taking her personal pride. There is no industrial pride like black men have with the salon. With the barbershop, excuse me. That is what my point was.
Okay. You have another.
Talk about the things that black women and young girls are doing, and in terms of extensions. What's good, what's bad, what's dangerous, what they don't understand about extensions. They could be ropes, they could be strings, they could be other hair. Talk about that.
And here again, you have to be, and I think anthropologically correct. Afro beauty history does not detach us from extensions or extending the length or wigs or things of that nature. Here we go again. It is probably, we are such a why, not what, it's why we do things. So wearing a wig in the Western world means, that she's hiding her hair. In a Western, in a Afrocentric perspective, you critically analyze it. Well, It's just the fact that she exists. She has the freedom to do it. And if that's what she wants to do, that's what she wants to do. In the Western world, she's got to be doing something that's taking away from herself or something. You know, even our perspectives even have to be questioned because our perspectives are tampered with racism and capitalism. So even the way we even have the conversation now, but I think that the way I address the extension is in a way that because of the construct and the impediments that we are discussing today, I like to address it more in gender, meaning we will allow Black males to start their little teeny cornrows, but somehow, here we go again when I said at the beginning, that we have an obsession with length. So we rush our girl children. So all of a sudden one day her hair is an inch and a half long, and then tomorrow, 24 hours later, it's shoulder length.
Mm-hmm.
So she becomes devoid and divorced and disconnected with the process of letting it grow. So therefore, when you take the connectolon and the plastic and the human with people and other things, and you integrate it into hers, well, she has missed the same thing in the beauty process that Black males do. So by the time 8 months roll by or a year rolls by, the Black child, he takes his braids down and he's thick and long and full. She takes hers down and she has a deficit. So it's not just the fact that it's the extension, but it's the why the mother completely just rushed her forward. And now you got pretty long braids, even though it's not indicative, you know, and it's very, you know, not as good for your follicles, which that's a whole other conversation. But this, you see the difference between the two experiences. One, the boy has a complete African experience, and the girl has a European experience. And then she has no hair a year later, and while the Black boy has the thick, long, very thick cornrows of natural hair. And that is how I approach the extension conversation, not historically and anthropologically, because we have normally, as Africans, and extended our hair with weed and figs and tendrils of plant material. That is not a European thing. That is a very Afrocentric thing. Did I answer your question earlier?
The nods at the table is yes. I'm going back though. Or is there any where I'm talking about us as a group of people?
Uh-huh.
We're doing things, but the end result could be damaging to the hair. I don't
Right.
know. I don't know. That was the basis of my question. The
Well,
ropes.
you have to remember, and this is that other conversation I was talking about, when, you know, Black people's hair is only supposed to hold one hair in one follicle, one hair. It should never have the weight of 5 hairs to 1, 10 hairs to 1. Black people's textured centric has another law that is following. It has another bio-responsive laws that it's governed by. It grows up. It does not fall under the law of gravity. So it's following different laws. So when you pull it in its opposite direction of where it is supposed to go, the only way that Black people's hair even goes towards the ground, goes downward, is under the law of weight But if it doesn't have any weight, it is always erect. It is always moving and twisting. It is always responsive. So when you put 5 hairs, 10 hairs to one follicle, well, you already know just pictorially in your mind's eye right now, you have a palm tree. You keep pulling it at the root in its opposite way, you will eventually pull the root out as the tree begins to lay horizontal. It is a following a perpendicular law, mass, volume, weight. It is not falling under a gravitational law. It's got, following a isopropylosis law. Its roots are going down and the top is going upward. That's a different set of bio laws. In other words, there is a physical damage when you keep pulling black people's hair in and downward. There's an esoteric conversation that goes with that. There's a scientific conversation and a cosmic conversation. But black people are creates, that's for a certain amount of time. You're not supposed to be doing it to create a European equivalent to long hair. Length is not something that is Afrocentric. Height is Afrocentric. People don't build buildings to make them long. They build buildings of power and vibrancy to make them tall. Height, volume, mass. That is natural to us. Once you start trying to desire something that is in opposite or anti-you, or your mechanism, or just the law of how you work, well, then lots are natural, right? But you've seen hair loss and facial, really, the skin to begin improving to become shiny. You've seen people with locks, and all they've ever had was nothing chemically, but the scalp and follicle is encoding and regenerating and degenerating, because hair is not, black people's hair is not meant to go into the opposite direction.
So Cheryl,
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm getting, the sisters know more about this weaving than I do. One strand of hair, when they do the extension, they attach 3 or 4 other strands to that. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, they will take a square or circle, or they'll take a plot of hair, and then they'll probably have maybe about 15 human hairs, but they'll attach 25 strands of plastic or extension or human hair that does not belong to them, and they'll extend it out. But after you let it dangle, if the follicle is meant to go in one direction, and then you have this weight alopecia that you're causing, because you want to pull hair, the less curl the human has, the more the hair goes down. The more curl in the human DNA the human has, the more the hair goes toward the sun, not away. That's what makes hair dominant versus recessive. Recessive hair goes down, and dominant hair goes up. Now we can get into that in scientific conversation, but as long as we understand that the cost of being obsessed and being in a system that teaches and wants you to have something else is lame, because straight hair void of curl, hair is meant to grow down. That's why it thrives. But dominant hair, acting and styles recessive cannot thrive because it is meant to go the opposite direction.
So what you have as a result uh, is the woman or the young girl begins to lose hair, but she doesn't know why.
Um, the hair begins to be first, it gets thin, then tears. And then the follicle will degenerate eventually. And then you will have the spaces on the scalp. That is what most women will gradually experience. Because what happens is that most people don't focus, they'll focus on the follicle conversation, but they don't understand that you have the pili muscle. The muscle makes the hair contract and hold the bulb inside of the follicle. Once that muscle gets weak, I mean, we get that, that's not deep. A muscle gets weak or begins to be extended or in jeopardized and compromised, it creates thinning. The hair begins to not be really strong in its follicle or its home.
Mm-hmm.
It begins to pull out very, very easily. And then along with systemic issues, but just physically, the pili muscle is, what I guess most dermatologists are trying to explain to black women, which is tractionality. But they just don't understand, just physically, black people, the hair is physically, literally growing in another direction. And it is named, the follicle is sits at an axis. It is supposed to grow a certain way. Well, for style reasons, and for trend, and to be beautiful, and the price that black women are paying to be obsessed with length at the cost of just the naturalness of how curly hair grows, that is hair loss and thinning and scalp issues as a result.
Okay, go ahead. We have a question.
Well, in my mind, I always thought that when you use chemicals to straighten your hair,
Yes, ma'am.
wouldn't that make your scalp and the follicles much, much, much weaker?
Yes, ma'am. Because you're changing let's say my color. It's dominant. And once you start killing the color pigment, which makes the hair strong and dominant, well, if you take it out and make your hair blonde, yes, the hair is considerably deficient and weaker, and will eventually respond to pulling, styling, and will eventually break.
Okay, I got you.
It's the same thing with, you can't take what makes afro textured hair curly and bind and twist and coil is within the cuticle layer. Well, you take the cuticle off, you take its dominance away. You take the very phenotypic traits that make it dominant. You take them away, yes, of course, and you tamper with the pH, the hydrogen bonds at the twist. You take all that away, but see, at the end of the day, straight hair does not follow those same laws. That's why we use chemically treat straight hair different. And I'm talking about straighter race of the people. You start the hair still optically does not respond the same way or have the same biocentric responses that yours does, because yours is dominant. It just has different responses. So what white girl does for hers, and she's got straight blonde hair, in fact, her straight blonde hair doesn't even respond the same way as a straight brunette, because brunette is dominant than blonde. So that even has different responses.
Interesting.
Curly hair would also put on a person from the Netherlands or a person from Africa. They're following the same laws. Their hair is coiled, regardless if they're of African descent, European descent. Because somewhere in their DNA, they have a dominant African gene.
Okay.
And maybe the discussion is just maybe in the world of genetics, maybe the curl gene is a very long gene, like your mitochondria. Maybe it lasts a very long time. You can tell there's not most people on the planet have curly hair, regardless if they're black or not. But black people, because it's so dominant and so prevalent and so dominant and so expressive that it's following so many different sets of laws. So, ma'am, I hope I answered your question. Did I?
Yes, you did. You did.
Questions?
You went even further, I think, with that last question.
Right.
When you spoke of the women with blonde hair as opposed to those who are brunettes, yeah. You know, and I've...
I mean, you can catch that same conversation with eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's those bond materials, the energy, it's a lot of energy to make and to hold black in its place, colors in its place. So the more energy is there, that's why the expression is so dominant.
Mm-hmm.
So that energy, less, genetic energy, you start having gray and light and hazel and green and thus none at all, which is blue.
Okay.
So, a woman in her 40s or 50s or 60s comes to you, and as a result of years of conditioning and whatever that women put into their hair, their hair is no longer long. When I say long, they have lost their hair. What can be done? What kind of nourishment that they can take in through food? What kind of nourishment that can be put on the head in order for the scalp to come back to life?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, that is the $1 million question.
Hey, wait a minute. You said if you got the answer to that, you would not be talking to me now. I'd be talking to one of your assistants.
Well, you have to realize one of the arrogance of the medical world, and I'm talking about the Western medical perspective, is that cure is connected to cause, and that they can just create something and to reverse it or to mitigate it somehow without really truly understanding what your question, Brother Leroy. And when it comes to, I like to take, if we can just fix the practical impediments and all understanding in that regard, and we can connect more cultural styles that are actually more conducive, not to cultural affinity, but for the nature of the hair and how it survives. That's number one. Number two, so our understanding of just how our hair grows and that science. Secondly, scalp and just the maintenance and the hygiene of it. But I think how I would do it in my cosmetic trichology practice when I was in New York, for instance, is that I would determine level of where the young lady was at. Is it, and the diagnosis that Black women receive is also very important because there's so many variables there. Just to have that conversation and consultation, and then just determine what and when she saw it thinning, or is it hormonal? Is it and hormonal just doesn't mean that that she's going through stress or everything. It could actually be a health issue and a health imbalance. So, and just because I have been able to study and just be able to be in reverence of knowledge that was just not preceded me, I'm having to go find it. I am not arrogant enough to say, there's a blanket answer to that. Right. Because it is, come on, we've been trying to get to the bottom, to the center of the lollipop on African people, and every time we get there, there's another 10,000 stuff we don't we don't know. So just that question, I would, in my practice, just for practical reasons, find the right diagnosis based on the consultation. Okay. And find out where she is in the level of hair loss or thinning. Could be recovered. Is the follicle have enough genetic material in it to be revived? That is determined, and that's not based on a rule. I don't think there is no rule. I think that there's all exceptions in an Afrocentric thought process. Did I answer that question?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
For me, yes. Mm-hmm. Questions at the table?
Well, when your hair starts turning gray, and then with some individuals white, does that have anything to do with diet? I've heard that. I've heard.
Well, let me say this to you. I am in the new study of the endocannabinoid system. And you guys have probably not newly been introduced to the endocannabinoid system. It's just as important as your nervous, your respiratory, your endocrine, our nervous system, things of that nature. Let me say this. I knew that I was on the right track talking about the endocannabinoid system when I found out that L'Oreal had a cannabis patent, because they're the king and queens of color. And they knew that somehow the molecule of cannabis could reverse the degeneration of the color cell mutation in the pigment, in the carotenoid, within the dermis. They knew that. Now, they knew that. So when you find out that that's where they're looking, well, that's where you got to look too. So, and one of the things that Dr. Sabi says so clearly, the moment you say diet, you're already on the wrong foot. Because it's nutrition and minerals. It's not just the consumption of one food versus the other. If it all is bad.
Okay.
So I do think it's a matter of being in the right context first, if that makes sense. Then let's try to understand that maybe we have systems that keep us young, balanced. What is gray? That's the question. Why does the body lose abdominal site begins to be destroyed at a certain age. Why does that happen?
Yeah, that's.
I know there's got to be something to, and we know that just because someone says something is hereditary does not quite mean that it's a natural process.
Okay.
But we do know that, gray hair does have a place in our society, good or bad. And maybe it's more bad for women and then more good for men.
Okay. Questions at the table?
This is the word you used, endocrine. Could you repeat it slowly?
Yes. Endo means inside.
Endo.
What's the rest of it?
Canna, like cannabis. CANNA. B as in boy. I as in India. N as in Nancy. O as in onion. I as in India. D as in dog. Endocannabinoid. You have cannabinoids that are that they what we call receptors. The nervous system is neurotransmitters. Then you have what we call receptors. They receive the messages that the nervous system and the body and the somatic sensory system sends to them, and the immune system sends to them. You don't have you don't have your cannabinoids are not receiving, then you have issues. And unfortunately, if the medical world is keeping that system in the to obscure it and to hold it in the shadows, then you already know that it is quite important.
Okay.
And so we are, I have managed to do as much investigation, but see, at that point, you're still reading someone else's interpretation. You have to let the information sit until your astral ethos should start chewing on it, so to speak, and then being able to place it in a higher intelligence so you can be able to apply it to something that makes sense. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, yes, it did.
Questions at the table?
I see a word, cannabis, in that endocannabinoid.
Yeah. The reason why that's there is because once your cannabinoid receptors dry or become inefficient, malnourished in your dendrite nervous system, there's only one molecule that can make them wet again, or vibrant, or receptive again. There's a lot of molecules based in plants. But see, plants can talk to you through your sensory or your receptive endocannabinoid system. They're called TRP receptors in your skin. But one of the things to remember is that, I know some may not remember, and I know I don't remember because I just turned 52 yesterday, so I don't remember the heroin issues in the day of Billie Holiday. But the war on drugs is not a war on drugs. It's a war on your health.
Would you repeat that?
It's not a war on within the Department of Justice, or it's not about legal. It's not about people doing one thing or having a moral compass of what's wrong or right. It is a health. It's controlling your health. Because at the end of the day, to have a scheduled drug, to be a drug, knowing it's a plant molecule that they're trying to keep away from, then it's not what is legal and not. It's understanding that a plant molecule is connected to your endocannabinoid system and could possibly mitigate certain conditions that people make money on. So, so we have two conversations. We have the conversation of us learning the endocannabinoid, which is legally yours because it's inside your body. And number two, why there's a plant within the planetary Earth that speaks that very system.
That what? What was that?
That speaks to that very system.
Okay. Yeah.
If I could just ask a question, you're talking about cannabinoid oil, cannabinoid extracts from the plant cannabis, also known as marijuana, correct?
There's the cannabis is the species.
Cannabis.
The hemp, the plants, the lotus flower, all of those are cannabis. Get it? You know where you've seen a lotus plant. You know where you've seen a lotus flower. And the key here is to understand that the psychoactive is a environmental defense mechanism from being eaten in insects. It's not just quite to get you high.
Mm-hmm.
The key here is to, because if we switch the word, so from high to dream, well, that changes the whole conversation, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that you cannot heal immunology the moment you get a cold, the moment you are infected virally or bacterially. You want to go what? To sleep. The immune system understands that to get you into certain levels of healing, depending on what the problem is, that you need to achieve certain realms of sleep. People try to go cold turkey, and then they waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then they restless, but if you can be able to, you know that you have these assistants and get you into these dream states. So in any case, but that is probably their feedback medicine. Some people go into a comatose, into a coma, and when they have brain injury, the immune system is making the person sleep. There's, a wider, broader conversation to have, but when you have plant molecules that speak to you to assist you in trying to speak to a certain system, well, that is at least worthy to discuss or examine. But of course, you also have to be kind of, on notice about where that oil and then where the CBD and CBN and CBG and all the other cannabinoid penetrates are coming from. As you know, they're on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so on February 10th, that is the subject. How do Afropreneurs, and since cannabis is such an Afrocentric thing. Agriculture is an Afrocentric legacy. It is something we've been doing for tens of thousands of years. So how do we corral the capitalism, the commerce, and the economics of it, and to try to economically get ourselves out of the war on drug years, instead of trying to legislate our way there. We know how that has worked.
And I'm sorry, Cheryl, the commerce part, talk about the business opportunities that folks have with your company in terms of starting up, I guess what might be called a cottage industry, the packaging, the private label. Talk about that opportunity.
We follow in the footsteps of the greats, George Johnson, John Johnson, being mentored by S.B. Fuller. We understand that, his teachings have taught us that beauty is one of those branches of commerce and the economy that is built for us to win. Because there is some esoteric and spiritual and cultural advantages that we have. There is no era in European history where another people, or an African people, or an Asiatic people, or Polynesian people looked at Europeans and said, those are beautiful people. We've never written it. It's not found. It's not in even cultural colloquialism. But they have looked at you and said, beautiful people. It is written and documented. And culturally in the colloquial, where in Harlem they call it the beautiful people. So all the races of people believe, just culturally, just culturally, pathologically, that white people are obsessed and have mastered the art of beauty. We have got to economically use that as our and to our advantage. We don't have to persuade white women that our skin is ageless. That's something they know. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we don't know, but they know. So it is very. We have a natural orientation to be millionaires and billionaires in industries that already we have so much momentum, on historical momentum of being the leaders. It is diametrically opposed to watch QVC and see a white woman sell pencils. They do it, but they know it just makes no sense. So, that's the first thing Europeans say to you. Oh my God, you guys look. Well, how old are you? Well, yeah, I'm 75. Oh my God, you look 30. You mean you can't take that to the marketplace? So this in and of itself, that is why we package and we encourage Afropreneurs to be in the beauty industry, because there are so many advantages. I don't care where it is. It could be in cosmetology, it could be in barbering, it could be, at the end of the day, the Filipino and the Dominican barber is following the black barber every time. I think that maybe in your parts in New York, they could be, so now it's but it's still a black thing. Black barbers have the best swag. The cutting arts, the tonsorial arts of barbering. It's still used, but I think black men still have the edge. But they gaining on you. So we have to control the beauty aisle, not just in Target and Whole Foods, but in our websites and internet and our YouTube and our conversations and our world stage and trade shows. And even those are things that need to be disrupted. And those are the things that how we do packaging, how we do commerce, how we do innovation, how we do technology, how we do science, how we do a safer relaxer. Because all women don't want to wear their hair afro. But how do we improve these things? So that's the things that we do for the label.
Mm-hmm.
So the private labeling, what I call private labeling, where I come to you, I tell you I want a product that well, tell me how it works. I could take your formulation that you've already done, buy X amount or invest X amount, and it'll be on my label. How does it work?
Well, yeah, we can develop something obviously unique to cater to your wants. But if you don't have technology of your own, then you can utilize ours with some, twists and tweaks. And so, you can, go it that way. Or if you have something chemical you want to add or you want formulated or things of that nature. But the packaging and branding is usually created from scratch. They usually know what they want. And colors and logos goes on jars, and then you get to pick jars. So that is in the initial process. What happens first is that we encourage the entrepreneur to create the universe first, because that is how the product is going to get to the customer, not just to focus on the product in and of itself. And the way we like to approach it is to prevent things from happening, such as other brands that are obviously later acquired by European companies. So, and one of the things to prevent that is to be technologically advanced and have our people to control that technology and not just be brands of things that other people have access to. You're just a me too. So, did that answer your question, Billy?
It gets us in the ballpark. I'm gonna give you a scenario
Mm-hmm.
that a young lady is a beautician.
Yes.
And a cosmetologist, I guess, whatever the proper name is, and she hears about your company. She knows there's an opportunity there, so she makes contact with you, and her name is Eva, and she wants to put Eva's Own as a label,
Mm-hmm.
and she's going to sell it to her customers as they come into the business. And so there would naturally be on your side a minimum order. She already has a graphic artist who's put together her label, the design and whatnot, and the ingredients and all that would be up to you. She's going to use your formulation, or she may even have something to add to it. So that's the scenario. And she comes to you. What happens then?
We're just going to put all the moving parts together. And so we would take a look at that particular logo. We would, put it in a label format according to that particular jar. And we can do it several ways, because if she's prepared to be the CEO and to be able to actually run the brand, we could just package it, bottle it up, and then send it back to her, and then she does her printing, her labels, and she puts it in her shop, and then she does things of that nature.
Okay.
Or she can allow, or she's not quite ready to take the brand, She wants to actually create more of a company that actually sells it. And then too, she may be just comfortable selling it to customers. Or she may be her only customer, which means that she's using it in the service of her everyday clients, which I don't encourage them to do because you get locked into that.
Mm-hmm.
Just being your own user, just sending it to, I have a couple of private labels like that now that I'm trying to reverse that behavior.
Explain that, the behavior that locks them in. What is that again? Explain that.
Well, it's almost like this. You want to sell something, but then you only buy it from me to use it in terms of a service that you're rendering. And I think that most of them start there, which is a good thing, but I don't like to get them into the habit of doing it. Because what you're doing is that you're boxing your labor intensive part of your business. You're letting that lead and not sales. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you need to, so your economics will start looking like you have to show up in order to make your money.
Okay.
But to go into this kind of world, you're going to reverse that. You want to sell more and do less.
Okay.
You want the customer buying. You want other stylists buying. But
Okay.
when you just buy it to only use it, you are susceptible to the economics of what we call labor economics, recessions, people not coming in, people not having it. You are susceptible to economic recession. But if you have a sales model, which a lot of us tend to not do, and I like to, we have. And so here we go again. Our wonderful people, they think sales is beneath reasons because, maybe they have confidence issues and so. So we encourage them to really get into sales. Our personalities are very vibrant. If we have our expert information, we know what we're talking about, there's no reason why we can't sell. But I'm reversing some of my cosmetologists now. Stop just wanting to use it. Stop just rendering the service.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, that is,
Before we roll out, talk about quickly the Jerry curl. Your dad creating that, and talk about the concept of curly afros.
those are two different things. But the curl obviously was trying to attach technology to Afro curliness. It allowed us to get another price dollar. It allowed us to go into the chemical lab. Most fat people that have, we have this war in our inner culture. The Jerry curl was good. And I know it created millionaires, but it was not natural. And then you have the Afro people of today. They're trying to get a ringlet, and they're here to do something that it doesn't actually do. And then my father's natural hair movement was just straight up Afro. They weren't trying to make their curl do something that it didn't do. They just took a beautiful Afro pick, boom, big and round and things of that nature. Mr. Morrow's goal was to always advance us economically. Not trying to box us in with natural, because that was irrelevant. That was not the point. The point is that are we cosmetically advanced? Are we able to give our men and women and our consumers a better product or more options, more cosmetic options? Question of our generation right now, Brother Leroy, and those sitting at the wisdom table is, where is our naturalness? Where is it? Can it be not, can you not be natural? Just because you appear your hair is straight. Is the naturalness in the doula or in your scalp or in your body, or can it be extracted? Well, where is the natural? And if we can't get or lose the naturalness, we have so much opportunity to innovate the technology then Black people can start relaxing and saying, we can't lose the naturalness no matter what we do, no matter what we decide to cosmetically look like. Medically, I can't take the naturalness out of it. And that leaves us so much, billions and trillions of dollars of opportunity. But if you keep saying that naturalness is the point, as if we can lose it, then we are not going to move one way or another. We're just going to stay to juice, meat, and berries, and boom, that's it. And as you can see, the Black companies versus your generation of millionaires, George Johnson, John Johnson, Ed Dudley, Mr. Morrow, those are legacy brands. The brands that are stuck to naturalness haven't even made it out of 7 to 10 years. They are struggling because technology is our legacy. That is the point. And that is where the economics and the capitalism, that is where our legacy is. You know, if George Washington Carver was alive today, we would be able to communicate and say, technology we want to advance, be me. You know, the question would not be, do we stay natural? No. Did I answer your question, Beverly?
Okay,
Yeah.
that was a question put to me by one at the table.
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned a few moments ago sales model, and from my experience, I always question people who are in business, some of them my own relatives, and I said, well, are you making any money? You know,
Making the what, man? Can you repeat that?
are you selling your product, and are you making money? Okay, whatever you do. And
Yes, that is a good question.
okay, I'm glad I have it, because someone, my daughter, she has a little business, and she enjoys it and so forth, but is she making any money? And there are times when I think, well, maybe she should go to a business school and learn about marketing, and are you making money? Is that what you meant when you said sales model?
Exactly. And placing your branding in the closest proximity of prosperity.
What? Placing your brand.
Placing by branding from a perspective that increases the prosperity of a person being able to look at it and say, yes, I want that. That is the business school that you're talking about.
No, go, wait a minute.
That we do.
Hit that again,
Yeah.
Cheryl. Hit that again. Just take it slow. Not
Okay.
slow, not slow, but just take it piece by piece. The branding in this particular case is building up a reputation of your product.
In regard to her question about her daughter,
Yes.
and merely just being in possession of a brand or of a jar or a line of product, what she's saying is that, are you placing your offerings, the benefits, the features? Are you placing those things in the closest proximity of prosperity? In meaning prosperity, which means that are you meeting the customer's wants and needs?
Mm-hmm.
And are they leading, or do we just expect the cat in the jar to lead? Here, he does this and that's it. You know, I think the business experiences that she's talking about for her daughter is to be able to understand, one, the psychology of a beauty buyer, the historical connections to Black women in beauty, in terms of, you know, Black women, is the offering of her daughter's product meeting the benefits of the consumer? And is the sales and the talk and the marketing and the branding and the advertisement, maybe the campaign, maybe her sales pitch, are all those working synergistically to create a very beneficial experience for customers? And when you do that, that is what she's saying. Are you doing that? Thus, are you making money?
Okay, and that's the question our sister put to you, and your answer. I'm gonna run this. That
And let me just say this, so I can just say, we need to help you do that, because that is not what they get. That is not what we get in business schools. I don't care where you are, Harvard, Columbia. No one teaches us in the marketplace when we create commerce brand, regardless if it's socks or shaving cream. No one takes the time to show us how to sell and offer benefits and sell the customer experience. We completely miss that. So we think that just getting a brand is just a whole gamut. So you're gonna have one, and I think that is what we do here.
okay. So going back to an earlier comment that you made, S.B. Fuller.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever meet him, or your dad came up under him?
No, my dad came up under George and John. So you have to remember, S.B. Fuller was so much older than George and John Johnson. And George and John was so much older than Mr. Morrow and Joe Dudley.
Right.
And then Bill Dudley, well, you know, George Johnson was 25 years Mr. Morrow and Joe Dudley senior. John Johnson was too. And S.B. Fuller was 25 years their senior to John and George.
The point is that the closer you are dealing with S.B. Fuller, George, and John, I would imagine they started, I don't know their history, correct me if I'm wrong, that they started out basically selling from the kitchen to the consumer and building the business to the point where they began to stretch out and get help.
This is the thing that's fascinating, and I think that you guys can understand. Black science and beauty was never in the kitchen. You never heard a story of Adam C.J. Walker and Madame Lamone starting in their kitchen. They may have pressed hair in the kitchen, but they did not. That we were laboratory people. You don't see George Washington Carver in the kitchen.
You see him in a lab.
You do. Right, you do. You can send it to me. But I think that this generation, since the 2000 natural hair movement versus the 1960s and 1930s and 40s of Madame Malone and Madame C.J. Walker and Madame Inez Gold Young and the Cardozo sisters and Sarah Washington Spencer. These were business women. They never approached it from a kitchen perspective.
Mhm.
They were not hairstylists. They were women who, they were really women of commerce.
Hmm.
So the lineage of mentorship, Lisa Price, Carol's daughter, or the Branch sisters of Miss Jessie, they're avoid, they miss that part. You know, I- I didn't miss being impressed upon and taught by Eunice Johnson, even though I was a little girl. But the moment of being what they in their atmospheric energy, it's just for a couple of years, off and on. It's invaluable because what you do is that, you know, those people were probably more aligned with cosmic business laws.
Hmm.
I think today we tend to try to bend them and break them and stretch them and shortcut them. But I do think that there is probably so much more methodology and modus operandi that is probably more aligned with very key and strict and very sophisticated business acumen that the natural hair care entrepreneurs of 2000 season just don't have.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
That's another program that you just mentioned. This cosmic business law.
Business
Really?
Is that what you said? That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to be prepared for a call from me. We got to go into this cosmic business law. You may be repackaging something we already know, but
Mhm.
got to get the benefit of your insight there. I'm just going as we conclude the business that Sister Esther, whose daughter is in business. She makes a food product. The
Mhm.
fact
Mhm.
that she's a school teacher, but she's doing this on the on her own thing on the side. The fact that she is doing that eventually, as she stays in it, eventually leads to a more scientific selling of the product and service that she has.
Of course. But it also is connected with her mother's wanting of her uh, business mental capacity to also elevate. It goes hand in hand. Once her mentality, she gets more exposure and more education and more beauty intel. Her behavior can't help but change because she's going to gain more the business of beauty.
Wow.
She's going to start being exposed to what families, or legacies like Esther Lauder, the Lauder family, and other beauty families, the Bethencourts of L'Oreal. They have a generational momentum on the business of beauty.
Mhm.
Our beauty entrepreneurs deserve the same exposure of strategies and branding and marketing and advertising and PR and publicity. They need to know all those levels and graphic arts and internet and social media and just the communication, psychological aspect of shopping and, you know, things of that nature.
Right.
She needs to be exposed to that. I think that is what her mother is saying. Your product and your mentality are now parallel. It's time to go up. It's time to elevate. And those avenues is what we do for our beauty entrepreneurs. Do it in English.
All right.
That's true.
And this has been the Wisdom Table.
Shirley.
Yeah. Thank you so much for.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Enjoyed the conversation.
And I'm hoping you can come back
Yes.
to us.
I mean, I am honored to speak with you. You allow me to brush up on my fullness in the directness of the answers. I appreciate your patience with me.
Oh, God
Yeah,
bless you. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
I loved your point. Black science and beauty was never in the kitchen. I just love that because, you know, and it came to mind that I remember Eunice Johnson and her product.
Oh, in the magazine, Ebony.
Fashion
One
fair.
of them.
Fashion
Fashion
yeah.
fair,
She was
right.
always in Ebony magazine.
Yeah, and I know it was more than the kitchen. It was the laboratory. It was
Right.
how they viewed themselves, and the mere fact that they knew they could do it. I got all of that from that statement that you made. Okay.
Yes, we.
I got all of that.
And that fits right in with your company, California Curl, because going back to that entrepreneur piece, if someone, let's say at this table, has a granddaughter who wants to go into business and is interested in the hair care, they would explore the opportunity of packaging a product straight from California Curl.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in the kitchen. That's straight to the laboratory, to the marketplace.
Yeah, to marketing. Yeah.
Well, think about it like this, and I'll be very short and brief. Think about it like this: if we are a people who acknowledge the real chemistry, alchemy, particles, atoms, and we understand that. You know, I don't think mixing and or as you know what a bartender does in salad dressing.
Right.
You know, we are people who love to be really good with alkalins and acids and pH and things of that nature. So we are always naturally trying to approach the molecules and things of that nature. We're not ever trying to just cut the corner. We're trying to understand biology and chemistry. That is where we started. That is what makes us great horticulturists. It makes us good at it. So, getting back to the laboratory frame of mind is what we're about. Science is fun. Mathematics is fun. It should be fun to us. And beauty is definitely fun to us. So you mix all that up, it is so, it's an exciting conversation. It really is.
And for folks who will hear this on the internet, what is the number that they can call and pursue your products, your services, etc.?
You can actually call me personally, which is a wonderful thing because we have just launched a co-founder of mine named Michelle Beth. Well, I think she's changed her name. Michelle Shirely, sorry. Corrected. We have started a website which deals with the Afrocentric mindset and the Afro ethos of the beauty entrepreneur. So I'm going to give you two things. www.yourniche.com.
Your niche.
Dot O-U-R niche.com.
That's NICHE.
NECHE.
Okay, it's
.com.
your NECHE.
.com.
Okay, that's
and
easy.
my number is 973
Mhm.
294
Mhm.
6505. And have your daughter give you a call. Sometimes, madam, we just need encouragement.
That'll be great.
So,
Thank you so much. Um, Niche, what does that mean? Or is that
niche, the French niche means singular, very focused, and specialized. But the way we're spelling it is my name and her name, which is,
okay?
her name is
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl. So
Okay.
it's ECHD. That's how.
I got it. I got it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Very creative.
Thank you, my sister.
Scientific.
God bless you.
Brother Leroy, it is a pleasure always with you. And if you could send me a copy of the link,
Yes,
I would love it.
that's a done deal.
Okay?
All right, my sister. God bless you and your family.
Mhm.
Yes. Likewise. Good day,
Thank
Thank you.
Dad.
Thank
Okay.
Thank you.
And this has been another segment, a classroom for all of us of the wisdom table. And the wisdom table is exactly what it is. It's a matter of sharing knowledge, getting wisdom and understanding. And this has been Sister Shirley, Sister Eva, Sister Esther, Brother Stewart, and myself. And may God continue to bless all of the listeners to this program and share the information that you get. And that's how we actually improve ourselves. Thank you.